we are we are forging a legacy whether we want to or whether we don't. It doesn't matter what you're doing, whether it's positive or it's negative. You're forging your legacy.
It's unexplainable. It's unconditional. It's unforgettable. Unstoppable. So intentional. It's so invitable. Indescribable.
Hello and hello and hello. And welcome to his
and her perspective.
How are you all doing today? Here at His and Her Perspective, we find common ground to harmonize relationships. And we are going to talk about something really good today. I'm really excited about today's conversation. We are doing something new today. So don't mind us if we're going back and forth, because we are on Instagram as well as Facebook and Periscope today. We're trying to reach as many people as we possibly can. So thank you so much for your patience in that right now. We are trying to get out there, and we hope that you would help us by making sure that you, if you're looking at us right now, to go ahead and share. Just do a watch party, share it on your Facebook page, share it to your Instagram feed, share, because sharing is what? It's caring. So today we are going to talk about love versus legacy. Which do you choose? Aren't you excited about that?
That's a heavy topic. Yeah, I've been waiting on this one all week. This is we just came up with this one a few days ago, actually.
Yeah. I'm really excited about it. Love versus legacy. That's something that a lot of people, I don't think that people are really, I think they're talking about love or they talk about legacy. But, when I was doing research and everything, Coach Vaun, I wasn't really finding a lot of things on love versus legacy or legacy versus love. It was kind of the either or the or. So I was like, wow, you would think that people would kind of discuss it, but they're not.
Yeah.
So we got, hey Desi, how you doing today? How you doing? Your beautiful wife is watching us right now. So listen, before we move on into today's topic, we always talk about what's in your cup.
Man,
brother, what's in your cup?
Let me tell you something. Today I did a little something special, and I got some adaptogen herbs in here today. So I got the ashwagandha. So ashwagandha, there's a little bit of rhodiola in here.
Got
and
the
I got the Roly Rose. You nicknamed it the Roly Rose. So I got ashwagandha, rhodiola, and muirapuama. That's Spanish. Muirapuama. It's a South American herb root. It's called it's an herbal tonic for male reproductive health. So
all right. You all healthy up in there. I swear you
said
that word. I was about to tell you. You speak Spanish?
I blow a little Spaniel.
All right. Your brother is he multilingual.
What's in your cup?
What's in my cup? My beautiful cup. I even look, y'all. I like my coffee to stay hot. So I was having a problem with it being open. So I took my cup from my oak top and put it, and it fit. I was beautiful. I'm sorry, I just got sidetracked, but I love that. So I am drinking a French vanilla coffee with a an Italian sweet creamer in it. Kind of boring today, nothing exciting, but it's coffee. I'm still waiting for my new batch of coffee, so I got the share. Just do a one party, share it on your Facebook page. An Italian sweet creamer in it. Kind of boring today, nothing exciting, but it's coffee. I'm still waiting for my feedback
There
from.
you go. That was
Okay.
me.
So yeah, so that's boring, but it's coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
So
works though, as long as it get the job done, right?
I love coffee. I am a coffee queen, for lack of better terms. Again, please make sure that you're sharing, saying something, and that you're subscribing. Subscribe to our Instagram page. We're over at His and Her Perspective. We're at Periscope. So subscribe to that page so that you can get any of our upcoming videos, as well as our YouTube page. We're at the His and Her Perspective show over at YouTube. As well as both of our pages at Vaun, the Love Alchemist, and my page at Coach Michelamonè. And yeah, just connect with us. You want to keep up with what we're doing because we're doing some amazing things.
Yep. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. We can be found in pretty much every major podcasting host. So that's iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, you name it. Even on Pandora. So subscribe, rate, leave us a nice review for the podcast. And, I wanted to roll into something you just mentioned, how you were looking for love and legacy and how there wasn't a lot of information out there. And I think that I'm about to use one of my college words, apropos, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's par, because we don't have very many discussions around this topic. I don't remember ever really having a topic about legacy. All we talked about was, finding somebody you love, somebody who loves you. And that's really the extent of the conversation for the most part. Yeah. But I think we're way past due to start having discussions about love and legacy.
Yeah, I think that we are. I think that people don't even quite understand really what that really means.
Yeah.
As far as legacy is concerned, I think that because it sounds like some rich word that middle class or poor people don't use, but we have a legacy. We are forging a legacy whether we want to or whether we don't. It doesn't matter what you're doing, whether it's positive or it's negative. You're forging your legacy because it's something that you're passing down to generations. Now, if that happens to be, you hanging out on the street doing nothing, then that's what your legacy is. If it happens to be you building empire, that's what your legacy is. If it's a spiritual legacy, whatever that legacy is, you're building it, whether you really want to or not. You just need to now take control over what that's going to look like. It's really the ability to be able to tell your future. That's really what it is. So if you really want to have a part in what your future looks like, now is the time to be able to plan what that legacy should look like and what you desire it to be, because that's ultimately what's going to happen.
Yeah, I heard a wise man say once that the best way to predict the future is to create it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so this is when we talk about legacy and what that means, it's really so much of it is predicated upon the decisions that we make, mm-hmm. The people we choose to be in our lives, the people that we choose to avoid or even omit from our lives. Much of it comes down to who we've decided to become rather than and again, there are places in this world where you can't change your lot. So basically based on where you're born, if you're born in, I don't know, let's say China, maybe, I think they face a much more difficult time elevating from the status that they were born into in that society than we do here. It's difficult here too, but it's possible here. And there are places on this planet where it's not possible to move out of the caste system or the economic system, the socio-economic status that you were born into. Here in America, though, even with the obstacles that we face, even with the opposition that we face, it's still very possible here.
It is very possible. So we have a couple people on. We got Desi, we got Karen says hello. And then we got Garthian who says grand evening family power. That sounds like an acronym. I love those. I love acronyms. You have to share what that means. I love acronyms. I'm like attracted to them. So please share what that means. So listen, I think that one of the things that our people have been taught as far as future building or building empire is that they have to separate themselves from people that they love or separate themselves from love, period, go build it, and then come back. And I really think that that has been a downfall for us because it means that we can't build with those that we love, or we can't have people in our lives that we love in order to build because it'll be a distraction. And I think that that is so not true. I think that when you get people that are on the same page as you and you find that you have those things in common, even if it's family, it doesn't necessarily have to be a lover, but even if it's family, friends, whatever, when you find those people, you need someone to help you be able to create that dynamic so that it can build in sustainability. So we have to get to the place where we're stop saying, "Oh, well, let me go build what I'm looking for, and then I'll get in a relationship," or "Let me go build what I'm looking for, and then get back to my friends and family." Because what I think is that when you go to another level and you've left behind those people that didn't come with you, you may not even want to go back.
Mm, mm. And I think a lot of times too, just to that point, it feels so much more organic when you can get to that place with people that you've already known, rather than arriving at this new place with all this newfound success, and you got to figure out who's in it for you versus who's in it for what you bring to the table.
Yes.
And again, there's not anything necessarily wrong with people who are in it for what you bring to the table, as long as there's some sort of mutual exchange, there's some sort of reciprocity in the, not necessarily equal giving, but equal sacrifice, right? And so I think oftentimes we find ourselves, especially when we show up to the party, when we've, there's this adage right now where, and it's been going on for a long time, where people say, you got to leave all your old friends, right? You got to cut all your old friends loose, cut all your old family loose. I've heard some of the most famous people say things like that. Steve Harvey and many others, they've said this. And I don't think that that's necessarily true. I think you have to leave the people who are not constructive behind. You don't have to leave all your old friends. And I think the party is that much sweeter when you get to a place, when you arrive at that place of success with people that you already know.
Absolutely. Garthian says, where two or you are gathered, there is a reason for that. There's no growth without someone to help you grow. Absolutely. Then he backed up with, now that have to be fitted into the picture after what's been built. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're not going to trust people because like Coach Vaun said, you're trying to figure out, are you here because of what I got? Or you here because you really care for me. So you go through these different phases, and it's unnecessary. When you can build people that are around you, that find you and that are there for you when you have nothing. And then when you build with them, one, you're building with people that love you. Two, you're also teaching them how to fish so that you don't have to give them the fish when you've gotten to the level that you've been trying to get to. So that it's a multifaceted situation. You're not just doing one thing and going towards, just that by yourself. Because it's really no fun when you get to the top and you look down and you realize that you're on there by yourself.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. I was listening to, man, I think it was, I want to say it was Carol Mosley Braun. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that, but there was this quote that stuck with me, and she said, there are no permanent friends or permanent enemies, only permanent interests.
I like that.
I gotta repeat that again. She said, there are no permanent friends or permanent enemies, only permanent interests. And so when we talk about love versus legacy, I think that one of the biggest problems that we're having, look, if children are the future, And we all agree that they are, because without healthy children, there is no healthy future, right? And so if children are the future, if we can't at least begin to agree on what's in their best interest for the sake of our legacy,
Right.
and if we can't begin to start agreeing on things like that, then we're going to be in a lot of trouble. And so when we begin to consider what are some of the things that's in their best interest, first and foremost, we have to start presenting a healthier version of ourselves.
Absolutely.
Because it doesn't make any sense for you to go out there and find a quote unquote healthy mate or healthy partner, but you yourself aren't yet healthy, right? So first and foremost, being healthy ourselves, that's not only physically, but that's also mentally and emotionally.
Right.
And let's throw in spiritually, right? So and this is before we reproduce, before we bring children into the picture. But now here's the thing: for a lot of us, it's already too late. A lot of us coming into this knowledge well after the point that we've already reproduced, and we've reproduced and brought children into some very unhealthy situations. But it doesn't have to end there. You can teach your children or even your grandchildren a better way of doing things than the way you've done it. So first and foremost is to be healthy. Secondly, I would say, if it's too late for that aspect, at least teach your children or your grandchildren. And then the next thing, you have to begin teaching them how to choose, how to select healthy mates, and that's another conversation that we can have down the line too. But being
that's
healthy and selecting,
conversation.
yeah.
It really is, because we have been we've been taught that you choose. I don't know how to put this without it sounding real crazy, but
Oh,
we've been we okay, our ancestors chose for us, right? They chose for us based off of what they knew about us. And then they chose for us based off of where they wanted our legacies to be continued into. And other cultures do this, right? Other cultures do this, or they make sure that when they bring them home, oh, they're checking them out. It ain't about it's not about, well, did he walk her to the door, or did he bring her home at night? It's no, let me talk to your mama and your daddy and see how much money y'all got.
Yep.
Let's figure out how well you all took care of your business before, because then that's going to give me a telltale sign of how your child is going to take care of my child.
Yep.
And vice versa. So then when we get to the place where we're not doing that, and we're not considering that, we're just considering love, and love is not enough. Yes, you want to be in love with your partner. You want to have that all gushy feel, but it's not enough. It's not what's going to sustain the relationship for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years. You've got to get to the place where you are purposeful in your relationship building. That's building friendships, building, especially romantic relationships. So, like they talk about how, certain aspects of dating, when you first walk into the first date, you shouldn't be asking certain questions. If you're not asking that person, man and female, woman and man, if you're not asking that person, what's the next 5 years going to look like for you? Your credit score, all right? You got money saved in the bank? These are questions that are okay. And if the person gets offended by asking those questions, you might want to walk away quick.
Yeah.
Because, and I want to be clear, I am not saying that everybody's stuff is together, because especially now we're in a pandemic. People have lost a lot of money. People are losing jobs, credit, because people are losing jobs. Now credit is being shifted. So, but it doesn't mean that you walk in with this, oh my God, this shadow over you. No, say, this is where I'm at. This is what I plan to do about it. But if you don't have a plan, like, yeah, my credit 580, what you gonna do about it? Well, I guess I just pay everything in cash.
Yep.
No, what are you going to do about it? Because there are things that we need in life that require that. Business requires that. Being able to buy a house together requires that. So those are questions that are okay for you to ask them about somebody. And even now, like Coach Vaun said earlier, if you've gotten to the place where you're already in it and you can now shift and make some changes, You can still shift and make some changes in the current relationship that you're in. Just start to invest in yourselves, start to invest in your relationship, start investing in your children. Do those types of things to turn things around, because as long as you wake up with breath in your body, you have an opportunity to change things around.
Yeah. And, you know, in many ways, shoot, there were a lot of things that I just did not know when my children were younger. And so even now, I mean, my oldest she'll be 31, man, in a few days. And so I find myself really, in a sense, it feels like I'm hustling backwards because I'm still learning at such a fast rate, a high rate, and I'm feeding backward, you know, down through the line. My daughter's 31. My son will be turning 30 the very next month, you know, and so, and then even 27 and then 25. These are the ages of my children, and they have children. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I'm reaching through them now and into my grandchildren, pouring into them through them. And so I think that's very important, you know. And one of the things that we had back in the day, you know, when we all grew up in communities, we didn't move around as much as we do now. And so we knew that the family down on the next block, Johnson, with the yellow house, we knew that they were crazy, right? And we knew not to reproduce with those people, right? Mama said, hey, look, boy, stay away. I know they put some pretty babies down there, but look, them people crazy, stay away from them, right? We knew that. Well, now the Johnson family has gone to college and they've relocated. They've moved all around. Some of them in LA now, some of them in Philly. And you don't know their family lineage.
Right.
You don't know the crazy that her mama and daddy and grandparents and their grandparents have gone through and put them through. And you don't realize that when we're reproducing with some of these people, that you're bringing generations of trauma and mental illness into your seed as you bring forth life. And so as you plan this legacy, it's imperative that we begin to look a little bit more into the family history of who we're procreating with, because oftentimes, like I said, it can look, my wife and I have a crazy side and I got a sane side. My wife has a crazy side and a sane side. And so, you know, when these two things come together, that's going to be some kind of cocktail. You know? And, you know, I talk to my children about this regularly. I know what you're struggling with. I didn't realize this when I was 18 and 20, when I was creating you. But I understand what your struggles are because I brought them to you. Right. And so we can communicate with them through that and help them, you know, basically understand their challenges and to realize when you choose, you got to be a little bit wiser than I was when I chose.
Right. Absolutely. So we got Garthian. He says, we weren't taught how to choose a mate. And that's one of the 3 arts we were not taught after slavery. Yes. The art of war, the art of relating, and the art of wealth. Absolutely.
Yep.
And Leon, hey, Leon, how you doing? Garthian said, love is work.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
I ain't want to take up all of them. You want me to keep reading, or you gonna?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Love. Desi says, love is work, Garthian, becoming better. Heart work. I love it. That's part of the heart work is part of Coach Vaughn's mantras within his business. Love is not hard, it's heart work. So that's beautiful. Sharia says, right. Tina said it best. What's love got to do with it? I'm just saying. And then it says, right, Desiree. So yes, I'm telling you, we got to get it together. We don't, as a matter of fact, I was just telling my son that about, you know, what's happened in my grandmother and my mother. And I had to let him know, this is why you're dealing with this, because your grandmother dealt with that. So it is something that I dealt with for 32 years and low self-esteem and depression. I told my son, you've got to fight. You don't get to, when you know what's in your lineage or your upper lineage. Am I saying that right? I hope.
Yeah.
Okay. When you know what's up there, then you know how to respond, and you won't lackadaisically go into life and just let it happen to you. You allow it to happen for you so that you can use it for your fuel. You know, I tell my clients all the time that when we use We use the things that happen to us. It's like a fuel, right? And we want our life to be this rocket. What's happening in most cases, people have that fuel, but their rocket is upside down.
Mm.
Fuel is up here and the rocket is here. When that fuel gets to the degrees that it needs to get to launch that rocket, what's going to happen is it's going to explode, implode into what's supposed to be instead of going up. But if you shift it, put your fuel, your fears, put your depression, put your lack of knowledge of who you are as an identity, put the things that you fear the most up under that rocket, and you fuel your rocket. You don't allow it to go and top off. You don't allow it to lead. You lead it with what you want, and then you make sure that you keep out of it the things that you don't want, and you leave it in that fuel and you use it to rock you off.
Yeah.
People don't do that. We're so busy trying to talk about, well, this is what I don't want, or I know what I want. No, you don't know what you don't know what you want. You know what you don't want, and you're making that into what you do want. And you're fueling what you don't want first, because that's all you talk about.
Yep. Watch this. I breed Doberman pinchers, right? And I've studied breeders for generations of dogs that they've bred. And one of the things that they do anytime they get a dog with attributes that they don't appreciate, a temperament that they don't appreciate, they won't breed that dog. And so effectively what they're doing is breeding out the undesirable characteristics and honing in, zeroing in on the characteristics that make the next batch of puppies more appealing, right? And I'm saying if we can do that for dogs, if we can do that for dogs, then we should be finding some kind of way to channel that into people, because everybody ain't supposed to be making babies. I'm just going to keep it 100 with you. Just because you got the tools and the equipment to make a baby don't mean that what you're bringing forth is supposed to be reproduced. Some of us are better left on the sidelines. Mm-hmm. I know that's an unpopular sentiment. I know everybody don't want to hear that. Everybody deserves to be happy and deserves to have a baby, but it's a lot of people out here making babies that they don't want. Yeah, a lot of people making babies that they can't afford. Yeah, there's a lot of babies being reproduced from parents who don't have what it takes to usher them into adulthood in a healthy and responsible way. Everybody is not supposed to be making babies. Absolutely. And so I think I'm fleshing this out as I'm saying it. So I pray that the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart is acceptable and honorable. But what I'm saying is we have to begin ushering our children. James says that's a deep and bold statement. Man, listen, thank you. I hope bold means good. What I'm saying is this: as we're raising our children, we have to be paying attention closely enough and have the courage to say, it's not time for you to reproduce if that's what we see in them. Right. Because again, what we're paying forward is trauma and unhealthy children. And that doesn't benefit the community. It doesn't benefit the couple, and it doesn't benefit the child. It doesn't. I mean, just to go piggyback on what you said, I don't remember the breed that I've actually saw this in, but there are animals, and some dogs specifically, that if they see something's wrong with the baby, when after they had the child, they kill the child. They kill that baby, because they don't allow it to come into this world. And I know that may sound like crazy to some folks, like, oh my God. But seriously, you if the animal has the sense to say, wait, we have this, and we have way more sense than the animals, then, I mean, I'm not saying go out and kill the babies, not saying that. I'm saying what the coach just said. Make sure that you are doing this purposefully, because we have the ability to now teach the generations under us. We have the ability to be able to say, wait, don't do what I did. I made these mistakes. I made those mistakes. I made that mistake. And I know that some of, especially millennials, they really want to learn some things on their own. But if you can still instill, even if you feel like they're not listening, because like I remember my daughter, she's 23 now, millennial for real.
And I used to think that she was never listening to anything that I was saying. But when she said to me just a couple of weeks ago, Mom, I've been listening to the things you've said, and she rattled off some of the things I had said to her years ago, I was like, I'm so proud, you know. So we have to really keep saying it, keep saying it, keep saying it, no matter what. Even if you think that they're not listening, just keep saying it. It's not about what we say, it's about how we say it. When we say things that are in love and in kindness, then things are received. And we can do that so much better, especially with the adult children that we have. Um,
I think. Go ahead.
James says, yes, both means great.
Thank you,
And
sir.
it does matter who you procreate with. And then Daisy says, some of us people have more sense than animals, not all. Yep, that's some. That's
Look,
true.
man, look, I'm gonna say another bold statement. I hope this one don't get me in trouble, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Look, one of the things that we have done, I think we have done ourselves a great disservice by perpetuating the idea that every child is a blessing. I know a lot of people ain't gonna like that, but every child, listen, a child is a blessing if it is able to be, first and foremost, brought into a healthy situation where it can fulfill some sort of plan, some sort of purpose. But if you're dragging that child behind you unwantingly, that child is made to feel dejected, rejected. You know, if we're punishing this child, if this child's life is a living hell, let me say it this way. If you walked outside your door and you found a suitcase and it had $1 million in it, you would say, wow, what a blessing.
Yeah.
Right. And then you would treat that suitcase full of money like it was a blessing. Am I right?
Right.
We would treat that money like it was a blessing. Oh, man, we make plans with it. We get a financial planner, a financial advisor. We do all kinds of things. You know, a lot of us will make sure every dollar has a home. Right. We would do all the right things to the best of our ability with that blessing. Right.
Yeah.
So if we're not treating a child that's supposed to be a blessing in the same way or better, right? Because human life is supposed to be worth more than a few dollars, right? Yeah. If we're not treating that human capital the same way that we treat fiat currency, then are we really acknowledging it as a blessing, or have we just adopted some cliches that make us feel good about unwanted children?
I think that makes us feel good. Wow, 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 Brother Vaun says, James Gifford. This is the thing. People put more planning in their baby showers than they do in their children's lives.
Talk about it. Talk about it.
They will plan what color. Oh, we got to do these gender reveals, and they spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on this. But then, as soon as the baby shower is over, what did you do with the child later? You know, how did you plan this? Like, man, my spiritual sister, she homeschools her kids right now, of course, because of the pandemic, but she decided still not to take them and put them back into school. Now she's a full-time, she has her own business, realtor who is, I mean, when I tell you the girl is jamming in this, she's been in the game for 16 plus years with real estate, doing it, making a lot of money. So you mean full-time? I always say she a full-time mother, she a full-time realtor, and a full-time wife, and a full-time her. So when you have to do all of those things, and it's gonna take work. You don't get to passively do it. You gotta put some work in it. And until people are not ready to put that work in, put the money in, put the time in into those beings that they have made responsible for. You have the responsibility for those children. And many of us, I know if the Lord made me go back in years and say, well, what about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? I would be like, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, Lord, forgive me. Oh, Lord, I'm sorry. Oh, Lord, I'm sorry. Because we didn't know. But now we are in an age of information. We have all types of personal development going on. It's so many things that are out here. Shows like Here's on Her Perspective, coaches like myself and Coach Vaun. We are out here teaching and giving the information for people to build themselves, strengthen themselves, and then be encouraged to them do the same to other people. So it's really no excuse as to why our generations are dying out the way that they are, because we really need to take hold to that. Like, teach one, reach one, teach one, however the saying goes. We need to pull and really do some work and not keep talking about it. But we all the memes that go on. When somebody gonna send out some memes about them doing some classes for the youth? When somebody's gonna send out some memes about how they're teaching the kids how to do a checking account? Or when are those types of things gonna happen? Because they're not teaching our children that in the schools. They're not teaching our children how to invest. They're not teaching our children what stocks and bonds are. You got kids. Oh my God, I have a contract with a university, and I coach 603 college students, and many of them are adults that have children's family jobs. But then there are some kids who just came out of college, and some of those kids have no clue about so many different areas that as I'm coaching them, I'm like, nobody taught you that? And it just breaks my little heart to hear some of the stories that I have to hear in coaching them, in during their time at the university. And so it's like we have to get to the place where we are passing on solid wisdom. And in order to get that solid wisdom, you have to get the knowledge, the understanding, so that you can turn it into wisdom and pass it on.
Yep. I think this week I've been sharing. Well, go ahead, James. You can read some of those comments if you want.
Everything, James Gifford says, everything both of you are saying is common sense, but for many of us, it's not common practice. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah. I think one of the things that it means to be a healthy minded adult, and this is not easy for a lot of people, but we have to begin doing an honest and accurate self-assessment. Honest, accurate self-assessment. That's not easy for a lot of people. And so sometimes it means getting help. If you need help, get help. But here's the thing. You might be the byproduct of generations upon generations of dysfunction. Mm-hmm. And you can't do anything about that. But you can make sure that it stops with you. You don't have to pass forward any further pain, hurt, dysfunction, resentment. All of that stuff comes through your bloodlines. It's in your DNA, right? And so you can't help how you got here, but you can help where you go from here. You might not be able to change where you've been, but you can determine where you're going, right? And so to that point, Coach Michelamonè and I, we're doing a masterclass, right? And if you want to, why don't you go ahead and tell them a little bit about that masterclass, Coach?
Okay, so we're doing a masterclass on. I want to bring up some things real quick. We're doing a masterclass this coming Saturday. It's going to be on October the 10th, and it will be at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're entitling that masterclass as Mending Fences Masterclass, Healing the Pain in Broken Relationships Between Men and Women. And it's going to be a live masterclass. After we do the masterclass together, Coach Vaun and I will be teaching, doing a real deep teaching, and the things we're going to be dealing with. We're going to deal with, people that are frustrated in their relationships. We're going to talk about things like resentment and how to overcome that. Talk about the fear that keeps people bound in their relationships, where they feel like that they're not stable in their relationships and not sure where their relationship is going to go. We're going to talk about distrust and why we need to get over the betrayal. And if you're not going to get over it, then you need to come out of the relationship, because it will eat your relationship alive. We're going to talk about the anger and why, we got men who feel like they're not being respected. We got women who feel like they're not being respected. We feel like that, there's things that are coming up where people are being taken for granted, feeling like they're being treated unfairly. The miscommunication. Oh my God, this is like something that people really need to tap into. Sex, communication, and marriage is the top 3 reasons why people break up. And people automatically feel like, because they're grown adults, they got a little education up under their belts,
Right.
that they know how to communicate. And that is so untrue. This is what I tell my clients. Communication in a relationship is totally different than you communicating on a job. Communicating within a relationship is making sure that you're able to clearly give the information, convey the information, make it understandable for the person that's hearing it, and then look to be understood, look to understanding more than you're looking to be understood. That means you got to find out, in fact, how to get that to your partner. We're going to talk about that. We're going to show you how to figure that thing out, right?
Yeah.
And so in that, you're going to learn how to establish unbreakable trust. You're going to learn how to recreate and sustain deeper levels of intimacy. You're going to improve your communication skills. And we're not talking about you. We do not want you to attend this 2-hour masterclass and you walk away going, okay, I just wrote some notes. Now what? No, we're going to teach you how to implement those things so that you can gain ultimate respect within your relationship and learn how to compromise and still get what you want.
Yeah.
How that for a power packed. And then tell them after they learn all that, what's going to happen, Coach Vaun.
Yeah. We're going to look. There are things. My wife and I went to our first marriage retreat a couple years ago. Now we've been married this year makes 30 years that we've been married, right? Mm-hmm. Neither one of us is 50 years old yet, and we've been married for 30 years, which wow. I think that's an accomplishment, especially today when the average marriage, I think, it lasts somewhere around 7 years or so.
Yeah.
Here's what I learned, though, that there are things that men will talk about when the women aren't around. There's a sense of brotherhood that that is developed when we can talk to someone who has a little bit more insight, who's been through a little bit more than we've been through. And the same thing is true with women. There are things that women will simply talk about that they feel more comfortable talking about with women who've had experiences in these similar areas that they have. They'll talk about these things with and amongst other women that a lot of times they won't even talk about with their own mate, their own spouse or husband or boyfriend or girlfriend, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to have breakout sessions in this masterclass, and the men are going to talk with the men. I'm going to lead that. Coach Michela is going to take the women, and they're going to talk with each other. And I think that that's going to be an awesome way of putting the icing on the cake for this masterclass. I'm excited about it. I can't wait. There's a lot that I've learned that I've been pouring this stuff out. But I think just as important, I love learning from the shared experiences of other men in my circle. And so, and I'm sure the same thing holds true for you, Coach.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So James said, when me and my wife met, I knew at some point building a family would become a reality. I began immediately learning how to be a father from good men who were fathers because I had no knowledge of fatherhood prior to that. And that is so true with so many of us. We do not have good examples of what it means to be that woman, that man, that couple. We don't have those good examples. And when you look and when you're able to figure that out, I wear all the good men. They may be in your midst, but you're looking at them in a different way because you don't understand why they're reacting and responding the way that they are. I'm going to talk about that.
Yeah.
I'm going to teach you, the women, when we get to our little segment, I'm going to teach some secrets that I learned from study from men, some things that have been said as to why we don't get what we really want. We're going to talk about some things, and Coach Vaun is going to do the same thing, how to be able to tap into your woman in ways that you haven't been able to do because you haven't learned those secrets, because there wasn't that person above us that was teaching us how to do those things. There was nobody to sit down with us. The whole things back when you see the movies where you see the kids sitting around the elders, those things don't happen anymore. We don't have elders sitting down, passing down information anymore. And we're going to be those elders in this masterclass. And we're going to share that. Now, Every Sunday we come on here, we're not charging because we believe in giving the information and talking about these topics to stimulate the conversation so that you can harmonize relationships and then find that common ground. But this masterclass is going to cost you a little bit of money. You're going to have to invest in yourself, because when you invest in yourself, one, you then take it seriously, and two, then you figure out what that really means, because you have to continuously do that, especially in relationships. So you want to tell them how much it's going to cost, brother?
Look, it's going to cost you less than it costs us to put.
Because we don't want to say how much it's going to cost, how much they have to invest.
It is, the investment is going to be less for you than it was for us to put it together, right? So the investment is $37. Now, look, if that's not a gift from the heart from us to you, I don't know what is, right? So an investment of $37 is all it's going to require for you to begin leveling up in your relationship. And here's the thing, man. There are people who will spend tens of thousands of dollars on their college education. They will put their children in the best private schools that their money can buy.
Yeah.
But when it comes to arguably the part of your life that is responsible for the greatest portion of your overall happiness, right? It's been suggested by psychologists that as much as 95% of people's overall happiness can be attributed to how well they're doing in their intimate relationships. Right. And so we put all this money into getting these jobs, these careers, and we make it to the top. We're making $80,000, $100,000, $120,000, $200,000, and we're still not happy because we haven't learned how to relate.
Yes.
Right. And so we spend all this time accumulating all this debt, first and foremost, because that's really what it ends up being when we go to college. It ends up being more debt than anything. And a lot of us spend the next 10, 20 years paying that back off. But we don't have anybody to enjoy that time with. My wife and I went out to breakfast this morning, and all of our children are adults. And we were sitting there and just kind of laughing about the fact that, we're having this love versus legacy conversation. And in the early going of the relationship, the early going of our marriage, first 10, maybe even 15, I would even go so far as to say the first 20 years, it wasn't really a whole lot of fun. It was a whole lot more work.
Yeah.
Right? That's the legacy part. Now, again, there's a lot of love, a lot of good feelings and all that happy stuff, right? I'm crazy about my wife. She's crazy about me. All that's good, right? But you don't get to have as much. Well, let me say it this way. We didn't get to have quite as much fun on the front end because we were investing in our children. There was a lot of time, effort, money, all of that being poured into our children, and she's working and I'm working, and we don't get to see each other as much during those legacy building years, right? And so, but what that did was it laid the foundation. When you do it right, what we're going to show you in this masterclass, when it's done right, you're laying the foundation so that once that legacy takes root, then you get to build on the love of that legacy. So now we're in the twilight. Our children are grown, and me and my wife, we kick it hard. I mean, we always gone. Before COVID, I mean, man, we was in Phoenix. We was in, where did we go for? We just went out to Vegas. I mean, we just always going, and I don't go nowhere without her as much as possible. She don't go nowhere without me. That's the love part. That's the icing on the cake. But the cake itself is legacy. And in this masterclass, we're going to teach you a lot of what that means to build that so that you can enjoy the fruits of your labor on the back end.
Absolutely. And excuse me, that was not ladylike. And we're going to deal with some. Y'all, excuse me, I'm real transparent now.
You can't be popping gum on camera, girl.
I wasn't popping gum.
I know, I'm messing with you.
Oh Lord, that was like, oh Lord. I'm sorry, I got my mic here.
No,
we're
I'm
gonna
messing.
some things so that you can avoid some pitfalls too. A lot of the stuff is beautiful. We hear about the beauty of everything, but in order for you to successfully create that, you also got to know which potholes to keep on moving on. Just roll around that. Don't stop it. Don't stop it. Go. Keep, that we're going to even show you how some that you might have to just go slowly into, because you can't avoid them all.
Right.
There's going to be some areas where you can avoid and some that you have to slowly go through so that you're not tearing up your whole relationship. So there's going to be so many different nuggets that are in there. And like the brother Garthia said earlier today, earlier during the show, the three arts. Have you? Can you? We got quite a few people on here. Can you all tell us if you know what the three arts are that have not been taught in our community? If you can, just put in the chat box, yes, I know, or no, I don't. We would love to hear that. Even on Instagram, if you know what the three arts that we have in our community have been neglected to be shown or taught about, let us know what that looks like. Do you know what that is? And it's okay to say no, because we're going to talk about those things. We're going to deal with those three arts. So we really want to know where we are as far as those are concerned. A lot of people do not even know what that even really means. These are things that have been deliberately kept from us on purpose so that we could not ultimately get to the place of being fruitful and multiplying the way that we're supposed to. Because being fruitful and multiplying has nothing to do with having a whole bunch of babies. And it does not just have to do with just getting a whole bunch of money. But we've been taught separately how to do both, right? The women have been taught how to nurture, or not really taught, but told to you, this is who you are. You're a girl, be cute. And this is who you are, a guy, you do this. But what about the coming together and being able to do that? So we're going to talk about some things, and it's going to be powerful. So please share this information with somebody. If you know somebody that's single, if you know somebody that's a couple, if you know somebody that's been married for years, it does not matter. This is spanning from singledom to you being married 30 years. You can learn something different that you've never learned before. Because if you had it all, then you might be teaching a master class. And I'm not saying, we smart. I want y'all to know, but I'm not saying we have all the answers, but we got quite a few of them for y'all, because we got 50 plus years of experience in coaching, mentoring, and doing this, what we do. So together with the combined togetherness. So we are well versed in what we're talking about. We got education behind our belts. We got experience. We got a lot to offer, and we want to be able to show you all that. And for $37 to be able to get that, it's just unheard of. I spent when I was married, I went to a seminar. It was a weekend seminar, 2 days, for a Friday and Saturday night. And I think that the cost of that seminar, and we had to pay for our lodging and our own food, of course, but it was like $499 per person. And we got a couple trinkets and stuff like that. And so I hope that you all will share that information. What else we got, brother?
We got a question right there from Brother James Gifford. If you want to highlight that.
Let's see here.
He says,
go ahead.
I have a question. James Gifford says, I have a question. What if you were given bad advice your whole life about relationships that doesn't build, instead it destroys, but you have been following this advice your whole life? How do you change in order to see your relationship today? Or I'm sorry, how do you change in order to save your relationship today? Wow. That's a powerful question.
It is powerful. Can we, before we go into that, hey, respect to y'all, fam, from MJ Will. We got some people that joined us over here. We've been neglecting y'all over
Instagram, fam. Sorry about that. We love y'all, fam.
Thank you so much for joining us. As She's So Cray, MJ Wee, Jerry Rogul. I'm sorry, I'm mispronouncing the names. And then Nalita.
Gotta love me.
Yeah, so thank you so much for joining us. We hope that you will join us at the masterclass on Saturday. But yeah, that's a powerful question, Brother James, because a lot of people, instead of asking that question, they would rather say, forget it. So I really want to answer that, but I really want to tell you that that answer is going to be answered in our masterclass. But can I share a little bit, and then you share a little bit, brother?
Yeah.
Okay, so How do you change in order to save your relationship today? The first thing you have to do is change your mindset, change you, and know that you cannot change anybody else. And the only person that you ultimately have control over is yourself. Once we get that, once we start to make a mindset shift, and once we start to say, okay, let me stop trying to change my partner into who I want them to be and allow them to be exactly who they are, and me adjust. And so that sounds really difficult to people because they go, wait, wait, wait. What do you mean? It's not my problem, it's their problem. No, I'm going to tell you one key that I teach my clients. The very first thing is relationships are about what's in you. It's about what you got. They're designed to find out what's in you, how much strength you have, how much patience you have, how much long suffering you have, how much grace you have, how much mercy you have, all of the fruits of the spirit. They are about finding out what's in you. And if you start to pay attention to those things first, then you're going to then pour out of the abundance of you getting all of those things solidified within yourself. And then you won't look at people, you won't look at your partner a certain type of way. Now, so you changing that part about you will then ultimately change your relationship, because that person that you're with is going to go, wait, there was a shift. What happened? Who are you now? And either they're going to align and get in alignment with what you're doing, or they will separate.
Yep. I that's a very important question, because 2 times in my life I was given some very, very bad advice. One time was when my wife, she was my girlfriend at the time, she got pregnant with my second child, my son. And my father died. Long story short, my father died when I was 11, right before my 12th birthday. He was murdered. And so immediately I needed guidance. I needed, and I knew that, I just didn't know where I would get it from. Well, he had brothers, my uncles. And so I began to look to my uncles for guidance. And one of my uncles, I went to him, I was kind of troubled, a little bit stressed. I'm young. My first daughter was my first child was born when I was 17. I had another one on the way when I was 18. So the first one I thought was kind of fun, kind of cute. But the second one came and I'm like, oh man, what am I going to do? So I'm starting to stress about this. So I go to my uncle and I'm looking to him for wisdom. And he tells me, he said, tell her it ain't yours.
Wow.
Now you got to understand, I'm coming from a very vulnerable place. My father had died and I never fully healed from that, right? Not at that age, not by that time. And
Right.
so for my uncle, who I'm thinking he has my best interest at heart, right? But, I come from that's my wild side of the family. But I have another side of the family, which is my mother's side, which much more compassionate and loving and things like that. And so I knew better than that, even though I feel him pulling at me, man, tell it ain't yours. You got things to do with your life, move on, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, man, and the immaturity in me was conflicted. And so, and then you got all these images, these ideas from hip hop and, all these societal bad ideas coming into you, permeating your psyche. And I actually took his advice and I told her that it wasn't mine and it wasn't my problem. Mm-hmm. I told my wife that, broke her heart. Mm-hmm. And even to this day, even telling that story is not easy for me. And we even still talk about it now because I think it still hurts her on some level to this day. Mm-hmm. So, but again, obviously we're together. Here we are 32 years later and we got over that. But right. I'm just showing you how a bad bit of advice can really, if I had stuck with that advice, if I had been let's just say my mother's side wasn't as loving and compassionate, maybe I would have had a different input from that side and his perspective might have resonated with me even deeper. And I wouldn't be sitting here today sharing what I've learned to the world and helping others with their relationship. The second part of advice I got, I don't know if I should say this on TV, but I'm going to say it. My very own stepfather. I think him and my mother had gotten into it. They were real mad at each other. And he told me one day, he said, no matter what you do, don't forget that women are just for sex. Mm. Now, this is coming from a man that's married to my mama. And I'm looking at her and I'm looking at him. Now, she wasn't around because she probably would have punched him in the mouth if she would have heard that. But
Right.
this stung. You talking about my mama. But now it's conflicting because she's married to this cat. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm wrestling with this. This is still right around the same time, 16, 17, 18, somewhere in that, time frame. And I had to overcome that. So what I'm saying is, to answer the question, if you look, the Bible tells us, be renewed, be transformed by the renewing of your mind, right? Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And so first and foremost, if you want to change something, then change something.
Yeah.
When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. And so I knew that the pain that I was causing my wife, and subsequently the pain that I knew my absence would cause my children, I knew that something was wrong and I had to make a change. And so I began seeking different advice from different inputs, different outlets. And that's what ended up ultimately helping me. It's a long-winded answer, but there it is.
No, but I got it, because that's really the whole gist of this whole masterclass, is that we have been learning from broken people. Broken people break people, or hurt people. You cannot. Yeah, we got kicked off IG because we went over an hour. But that's fine. I can cut out the coffee segment. What's in our cup? But this is important. We got to get to the place where we understand that instead of automatically going, because Coach Vaun could have said, well, oh my God, I hate this guy for saying this, or these men for telling me this. But now you got to look at, where is the source coming from? Who taught them? My grandmother used to say, and this as Coach Vaun was talking, into my heart where certain things happen. So I remember my grandmother telling us when we were little that if a woman got that part in her body, then she should never be broke. Well, if you're trying to abstain, which most of my life I attempted to not have sex outside of marriage. I did have 2 children outside of marriage, but my whole point was I didn't want to be giving myself and giving my body to men that didn't belong to me. And because I lived that way, my self-esteem was, well, if I'm not giving it, if then I'm not okay, if I don't have money and I'm not giving dudes this, then my value doesn't mean what it needs to mean. It's not as valuable because I'm not giving that, right? And so we have to understand that these are some of the things that we need to pay attention to, because this is some of the things that are keeping us bound in relationships, keeping us bound in our minds, keeping us bound because of that bad relationship that we have been, bad relationship advice that we have been given over the years from people that are broken. So it's time for us to now find sources, find coaches, find people that have the experience, have been taught and trained, have the education backing them, know what techniques and strategies and keys that they can give to you in order to be able to get you past that. Because that's the difference between a therapist and a coach. Therapists, they want to take you back, dig up, so that you can figure out where it comes from. And many times, I'm not saying all therapists, because I don't want anybody to get mad at me, but many times they leave you there because they don't know how to take you further. Yep. The coach is going to dig a little bit to figure out where you are or what made you get there. And then, okay, so now that you know, now let's move you forward. And so that's what we're going to deal with. We're going to deal with some keys and strategies that are going to be able to help you do that. James said, yes, brother, as a younger man, I was always taught to keep another woman on the side. I grew up and completely rejected that nonsense. And many men are not. They equate their manhood by how many they lay.
Yeah. There are a lot of us, men and women, or I should say young males and young females, who are getting a lot of bad advice poured into them. Yeah. And before, look, they say the brain doesn't fully develop until you're somewhere close to age 25. Right? Plus or minus a few years. Well, prior to that age, 18, 20, you can make a lot of very critical mistakes in your life that can affect your life for the rest of your life, really, if you make a bad enough decision. And so there's a lot in today's music, today's entertainment, and with the dysfunction that a lot of our elders are even experiencing right now, there's a lot of very unsavory ideas being passed on as wisdom
Yeah.
to these young minds, and they don't realize it. Like Brother James said, I grew up and completely rejected that nonsense. Well, what age did you finally grow up? What age did I finally grow up and
Right.
began rejecting that nonsense? It took me a while, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so anyway.
32 years I lived in rejection, in low self-esteem and doubt and fear. 32 years I hated who I was. I hated what I looked like. I think I said this before. I tell this story when I'm speaking. 32 years I didn't have mirrors. Every woman that I know has some type of big mirror in their bedroom, in their dressing room, and whatever room that they have. They have those mirrors there because they want to check out themselves when they're dressed up and looking all cute. I didn't have that because I didn't like what I saw. I hated what I saw. I was a dark-skinned girl with short hair most of my life who didn't sound like the friends that I hung around. And so it really bothered me, and didn't get the you're beautifuls, didn't get the you're smarts, didn't get the all of those things. So I looked to the intelligence that I naturally had because I was always, as far as book smart, always smart. I learned street smarts because I wanted to be the cool kid. So I started doing things I had no business doing in the streets. But it's a lot of things that we were taught because, again, like I said, it ultimately boils down to them just not knowing better. And that goes to the forgiveness of those things that were taught to us, and not be angry about those things, but we learn to forgive because they just didn't know better.
Yeah. And I think just as important as forgiving them, it's important to forgive yourself.
Absolutely.
I would say that's probably the most important thing, because a lot of us are carrying burdens that don't even belong to us.
Yeah.
I think it's, to some degree, it can be useful, but this baggage, if you just think in terms of traveling, right? Life is a trip,
Yeah.
but that baggage is no longer useful. Is not useful unless you unpack it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I have a
Don't know
friend.
how to unpack that, Coach Vaun. A lot
Yeah,
of people don't know how they keep the suitcase over in the corner. They put things on top of it. They move it to the other side of the room because they have to get over here to get something out of there. They do all of those things instead of learning how to unpack it. Most people just don't know how to heal. That is a process that you have to be taught. It is not something that comes naturally to us because we just don't know. We weren't taught to do that. And there's so many different dynamics to healing that we don't pay attention to. Things, I'll give you just one. How many times if you fall down and skin your knee, you're not going to keep touching it. Well, there's dynamics in our lives where we keep touching it. We keep going back there. We keep reliving it. We keep going. All those are things we're going to talk about. I'm telling y'all,
yeah,
come to the master class,
yeah. We're gonna definitely have to get on that.
friends and folks.
Yeah, we definitely got to get. And that, you just made me want to go even deeper into that topic. So I'm definitely going to do that when we do this master class, because yeah,
Man.
that's I will say this. A lot of people would be surprised at how much of that baggage comes from our upbringing, our immediate family, before we even get out into the world for other people to start hurting us. I have a friend who's going to watch this show on replay, but he was telling me how his family, his own aunts, told him that he was never going to be anything. And of course, they use much more graphic language than that. You ain't gonna never be sugar honey iced tea, right?
Yes.
And I've heard other people, you just like your daddy, or you just like your mama, you ain't blah blah blah. And I'm saying that as a starting point, my God, if that won't send you down the wrong road, boy, you know.
Yeah, it will. It really will. James says it happened. It happened to me unintentionally around 25 years of age. I ran into some brothers who were speaking on manhood. There, my life changed. And he said, "This is a phenomenal show. Thank you so much, brother. We appreciate that." So we have been, man.
We're a little long-winded today.
This is important. This is so important so that we can build solid people, to build solid communities, to build solid love and legacy. Coach Vaun and myself have such a passion for healthy, long-lasting relationships with your lover, with your children, with your family, and that really boils down to making sure that you're solid. And we have a passion for that. That's why we do what we do. We don't have the Oprah Winfrey money yet. We working on that, but we are in the community. We are in the trenches doing this work every single day. Clients every day. We go to bed tired. Y'all have no idea some of the sleepless nights we have because we're in the trenches with people. I mean, how the saints say, I can't think that thought came to my mind about how when you want to flow in the church and they travailing and you got on and you get them today, that you getting them right there. We are in the floor with the folk travailing because we have a passion for making sure that people are healed and drop off that baggage so that it works for you and not against you, because the baggage doesn't all have to be bad. You can hold on to some of that stuff that's going to help you. Let's talk about that fuel I talked about. But if it's not helping you, if it's not serving you well, you got to get rid of it, unpack it, and throw it away. Right? Desi says, an amazing show. Thank you so much, Desi. We appreciate that.
Appreciate y'all, family.
So we're gonna end. We 10 minutes over. We're gonna have to cut off the we're gonna have to cut off the coffee. We're gonna get this out to where it needs to go, right? We love y'all for real. We'll talk to y'all later.
Love y'all, fam. Peace.